Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Manachari Munachira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Om Vishnu Paraparamahamsa Privrajikacharya Ashtotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnu Paraparamahamsa Privrajikacharya Ashtotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktarinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh, glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna, everyone. We're reading from 7th Canto, chapter 13, text 31 today. Continue reading. So, adhyātmika adhibhi dukhair avimuktasya kahichit matyasya krichropanatar adhai kamai kriyeta kim adhyātmika adhibhir dukhar avimuktasya karichit matyasya krichropanatar arthai kamai kriyeta kim adhyātmika adhibhir dukhar avimuktasya karichit matyasya krichropanatar arthai kamai kriyeta kim adhyātmika adhibhir dukhar avimuktasya karichit matyasya krichropanatar arthai kamai kriyeta kim. Please chant.
Adhyātmika adhibhir dukhar
Adhyātmika
avimuktasya karichit matyasya krichropanatar arthai kamai kriyeta
adhyātmika adhibhir dukhar matyasya karichit arthasya krichropanatar arthai kamai kriyeta kim adhyātmika adhibhir dukhar avimuktasya karichit matyasya krichropanatar arthai kamai kriyeta kim
adhyātmika
Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
Vijay, you there?
Vijay Krishna Prabhu? Maybe later. That's right. Okay, word-to-word meaning of the text 31. Adhyātmika adibhi. Adhyātmika, adhidaivika, and adhibautika. And adhibautika. Dukkha. By the threefold miseries of material life. Avimuktasya, of one who is not freed from such miserable conditions. Or one who is subjected to birth, death, old age, and disease. Karichit, sometimes. Matyasya, of the living entity subjected to death. Kuchapanatai, things obtained because of severe miseries. Adhai, even if some benefit is derived. Kamai, which can fulfill one's material desires. Krita, what do they do? Kim, and what is the value of such happiness? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Materialistic activities are always mixed with three kinds of miserable conditions: adhyātmika, adhidaivika, and adhibautika. Therefore, even if one achieves some success by performing such activities, what is the benefit of this success? One is still subjected to birth, death, old age, disease, and the reactions of his fruitive activities. Purport. According to the materialistic way of life, if a poor man, after laboring very, very hard, gets some material profit at the end of his life, he is considered a success, even though he again dies while suffering the threefold miseries: adhyātmika, adhidaivika, adhibautika. No one can escape the threefold miseries of materialistic life, namely miseries pertaining to the body and mind, miseries pertaining to difficulties imposed by society, community, nation, and other living entities, and miseries inflicted upon us by natural disturbances from earthquakes, famines, droughts, floods, epidemics, and so on. If one works very hard, suffering the threefold miseries, and then is successful in getting some small benefit, what is the value of this benefit? Besides that, even if a karmi is successful in accumulating some material wealth, he still cannot enjoy it, for he must die in bereavement. I have even seen a dying man begging a medical attendant to increase his life by 4 years so that he could complete his material plans. Of course, the medical man was unsuccessful in expanding the life of the man, who therefore died in great bereavement. Everyone must die in this way, and after one's mental condition is taken into account by the laws of material nature, he is given another chance to fulfill his desires in a different body. Material plans for material happiness have no value, but under the spell of the illusory energy, we consider them extremely valuable. There are many politicians, social reformers, and philosophers who died very miserably without deriving any practical value from their material plans. Therefore, a sane and sensible man never desires to work hard under the conditions of threefold miseries, only to die in disappointment. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Avancha Kalpatrubhescha Kripa Sindhubhe Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvitesha Shunyavari Pashkata Desha Tarine Jai Jai Prabhupada Hare Krishna. So this text number 31 deals with the futility of material enjoyment. What's the use of laboring so hard if at the end you die and get nothing to take with you? And besides, along the way, there's so much struggle for material existence. So many different kleshas that have been brought up here in this text. This adhyātmika, this is described as the kleshas or the miseries, the threefold miseries. First one is it comes from the mind and the body. Atma means the mind and body. So this is the first type of misery that we experience, and the mind means that we have many different thoughts, and those thoughts, they can cause suffering. Sometimes our thoughts when we mad and angry, and it's targeted against ourselves, and it can become so severe that we might become depressed. So this is first type of klesha, misery, comes from the mind or the body. And of course with the body, there's old age, there's so many diseases and different unfortunate events that can happen to the body along one's life. And the second type is adhibautika. This is dealing with other living entities, and particularly with the relationship with different living entities. Sometimes we suffer just because we have improper relationships with people. We can suffer mentally or physically as well. And of course, other living entities such as insects, for example. We have our mosquito nets because we're afraid, we don't want the mosquitoes to come and bite us. So that's another type of kleshas, another type of misery we experience in material life. And the third one is adhidaivika. This is coming from the demigods, the devas, who on their part can, for instance, they can affect weather, they can make it very hot, they can make it very cold, or they can send upon us earthquakes or floods, different things of that kind. So those are three kleshas, three miseries that we experience. And if we look at where we are in Srimad Bhagavatam, this is still a conversation of the Avadhuta Brahman with Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj, he was so surprised to see that Brahmana for the first time. He saw him practicing this Python yoga. It's called Ajagra Vritti. And so when he first saw that Brahmana, he noticed that Brahmana is really fat. So he was surprised to see why is it this Brahmana is so fat. Although he's just laying there in one place. He doesn't have any money, he doesn't work, so why is it so? And at the same time, he was also surprised that this Brahmana is very intelligent and very saintly. It seemed like there's an effulgence was coming from his body. So Prahlad Maharaj is surprised, therefore he's asking questions to that Brahmana, inquiring, what exactly, how did you achieve that state? What are you doing? What's going on? And Brahmana, in exchange, he also notices that Prahlad Maharaj has a saintly characteristic to him. So he begins to glorify Prahlad Maharaj. He says that you have spiritual vision, and you can see a man's character and tell what stage of life he's in. And you are free from ignorance, he says, because of your devotion to Narayana Deva. He says this beautiful text, Yasya Narayana Devo Bhagavan Hridgata Sada Bhaktya Kevalaya Gyanam Dunoti Dvanta Markavat. He says, Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of all opulences, is predominant within the core of your heart because of you being a pure devotee. He tells him that, Prahlad, you're a pure devotee. Because of your devotion to Narayana, you're free from ignorance. Just like the sun drives away the darkness, so similarly if we devote it, if we have love for Krishna, we also receive benediction in the form of knowledge and intelligence. So then, in this way, Avadhuta Brahman begins to explain the science of material life, how it is, he calls it pavarga. It was mentioned by Gorakeshwar Prabhu just some days ago, how this materialistic life works. First, we have to labor very hard. And after laboring very hard, we become very tired. Like a horse, we begin to foam from the mouth. And so when we become tired, we look at the result of the fruit, and we are dissatisfied because we can never please our material senses. we can never be completely happy in material life. So therefore we feel dissatisfied. And after we feel dissatisfied, even if we did get something in our possession, we feel like it's going to be taken away. So there's fear involved in that. We feel fearful. And of course, after fear comes the last stage of pavarga, materialistic way of life, death, which is unavoidable. Death comes at the end. And Srila Prabhupada tells a really funny story. There was one man sitting down, and his friend comes over to him and he says, "Why are you sitting down, so not doing anything? Why are you sitting down idly?" And he says, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" And then he says, "Well, you should work. Why should I work?" And then his friend says, "Well, if you work, you can get money, and then with that money, you can sit peacefully and enjoy." And then that friend says, "Well, I'm already doing that. I'm already sitting peacefully, eating and enjoying. Why should I work? Why should I labor so hard?" So, and our laboring so hard means that we always engaged in some activities which will create an abominable reaction, even without us wanting to. Even if we just are trying to be in the mode of goodness and a pious person, still there will be some reactions that will cause other living entities some difficulty, some suffering. So therefore, these desires that we have, they cause us to transmigrate. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains very nicely in the 13th chapter how this transmigration process works. He says, Purusha prakritisto hi, he says, Bhakti prakritijan gunan, karanam gunasangasya sata satyuni janmasu. He explains that Purusha prakritisto hi, we're mixed with these modes of nature. We're conditioned by our subtle and gross body, so when we're born, we're already mixed with the modes of nature. They are outside, they are also within us. And so when we are mixed with these modes of nature, when we experience the influence of the modes of nature, our natural tendency is that we're trying to enjoy them. Bhakti prakriti jan guna. We're trying to enjoy whatever we see, whatever we can within our vision. And that enjoyment, that spirit of enjoyment, it causes karanam gunasangasya, association with the modes of nature, further association, gunasangasya, which at the end will ensure that we'll come back and take another birth. Satasat yonijanmasu. We are mixed with evil and good among different species. So Srila Prabhupada explains that we are being kicked like a soccer ball, just from one place to another. And in the commentaries to this text, Srila Prabhupada says that material consciousness will oblige us to transmigrate. It's a fact. So therefore, if we want to change, if we want to change the consequence of our life and the quality of our life, we also need to change our consciousness from materialistic consciousness to spiritual consciousness. And that change can be affected by one very potent process. Does anyone know what that process is? Maybe anyone remembers. What is the most important thing in this age for us to do in order to change our materialistic consciousness? Yes, hearing transcendental sound from the authoritative source. And this is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. The whole purpose of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is that we are engaged in different angles of devotional service according to scripture and according to direction of a spiritual master. And in that way, even though we might not be so attached to that transcendental sound, we might not like it very much in the beginning to hear the holy name, and we might not be so attracted to hear philosophy, especially daily. We have to hear philosophy. But at the end, if we follow the rules and regulations of the scripture and follow the directions of our spiritual master, then we can get there. We can get that taste and attachment for transcendental messages of Vasudeva. And so Krishna also confirms it in the 11th canto. He told Uddhava, just by worshipping me through various methods prescribed in the Vedas, you will gain from me desired perfection in both this life and in the next life. It's only a matter of our consciousness. For instance, our activities in this material world, they begin with the mind. Actually, this body is just an instrument. It's just all the desires are kept within the mind, and there's a subtle form of action. First, we think, then we make a decision, and then we just use that body to act for particular reasons. So body is just an instrument, and therefore our mind, this is where we have the most problems. Our mind has to be elevated to the platform of the Absolute, come in touch with the Absolute sound, vibration, reality. And in that way, we can also change our desires. So devotees, it is explained in this text, all the living entities, they experience kleshas, miseries. They come from the body, mind, the devas, and all the living entities. And in this way, devotees are also experiencing different miseries, even though they are practicing, and even though they are practicing Bhakti Yoga, and it seems like they're following everything written in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So in this ways, these obstacles, devotees, they see them as mercy. They see them as mercy, and if there's difficulty in devotional life, it's a great opportunity to actually progress. In the example of Priyavrata, King Priyavrata, who was a brahmachari in the beginning, meditating, being renounced, it is mentioned how at that time there was no ruler. No one was qualified to rule after the Prachetas. There was no one qualified to rule the universe. So in this way, Swayambhava Manu, his father, he came down with Lord Brahma to convince Priyavrata to take up that post, that position. It was necessary, So in this way, Priyavrata, he had to renounce his renunciation and become a king to rule the universe. And of course, we know when Lord Brahma comes down to convince someone, that's something really serious, something serious about to happen. So Priyavrata, he took that position, but his first worry is that if I am going to become a king again, I have to accept a wife, I have to be an exemplary figure, I have to have children. And he was concerned about his devotional life. That's the first thing that was on his mind. Isn't that going to obstruct my devotional life if I become a king? Isn't it going to be difficult? So further in this text, Lord Brahma, he convinces him, he explains to him how we all bound up by different divisions of our ashram. But although you will be in a household, you will be a grihasta, still if you are self-controlled and if you continue practicing, continue meditating, continue doing service, devotional service to the Supreme Lord, then you will not lose. It will not be an obstruction for your life. It will actually be the opposite. Those material duties will protect us. When it's described, it's like a fortress. When you have a fortress, being dutiful and following the dharma of a particular ashram, it protects you. Just like the lion is protecting the forest. He lives in the forest. He protects the forest, and the forest protects the lion. So similarly, this household life will protect the king if he's dutiful and if he's following everything correctly like that. And there's, of course, examples in our tradition of great and successful Vaishnavas who were able to be really elevated and really advanced in spiritual life. And of course, one example is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I mean, he had so many responsibilities, and his day was he couldn't put a pin in his day of any free time. He was so busy. He was sleeping for just so less, and he had 13 children to raise, and he was working as a what do you call it, magistrate? Magistrate, yeah. So that was this responsible position. And besides that, he was writing. He wrote around 100 books. And he was also practicing active spiritual life, chanting. So he's a great example of how, even within the household life, we able to expand the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and be an example to other people, other devotees. And in his wonderful bhajan, Manasa Deho Geho, he writes that whatever I have, my mind, my family, my body, I surrender it at your lotus feet. And this indicates that we have to become a jitendriya, become a self-controlled person. It's actually mentioned, the qualities of that person, the jitendriya, or the person, sthita pragya. What is qualification? How does he live in life? What are his activities? And what is his consciousness? Particularly, I wanted to read from the chapter 2, text 56. This is Bhagavad Gita. This is Krishna's confirmation. I'll read the translation. One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear and anger, he is called a sage of a steady mind. And then he's in the commentaries, he says that one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculation has come to the conclusion of that Lord Krishna or Vasudeva is everything. Vasudeva Saramati Samahatma Sadurlabha. He is called a Muni. He is fixed in mind. He is fixed in knowledge. And such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds. And he sees that his miseries by the grace of the Lord are minimized to the lowest. Like that. So this is his vision. And then when happiness comes to a devotee like that, he is unworthy of that. He feels himself unworthy of that happiness. So even though there's threefold miseries, and there might be impediments in a similar example of Priyavrata Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, he calls this impediment, there's two main impediments in devotional life that devotees might experience. First impediment is caused by an aparad, Vaishnava aparad. It's compared to a mad elephant offense. When we commit this first Vaishnava aparad, the first offense, Vaishnava aparad, it's actually it destroys all of the spiritual assets that we've gained. So we should be very, very careful not to offend the Vaishnavas. And the offenses are, of course, in the beginning they begin in the mind. And then if we continue allowing ourselves to blaspheme or think negatively or anything of that kind within the mind, then it will come out into words, and from words it will come into action. So it's really important to check ourselves with that offense. And of course, on the opposite side, if we want to be free from that offense, immediately when we think of someone in a negative way, we should offer service and we should glorify, come to that devotee and offer obeisances, glorifications like that. This will help us. And so the second offense might be also, it's caused by the Supreme Lord as a way to shape us up in spiritual life, to purify us, to help us realize something that we're not seeing, we're missing in spiritual life. So that's Krishna's hand in our life. And there's this famous text in the 10th canto spoken by Lord Brahma, Tatyenu Kampam Sushimakshimano. And in a commentary, Srila Prabhupada explains, in his mind, a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, but the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. So Krishna comes and he helps. He's not making our life more difficult, but he's actually helping us notice that there's something that we're not able to overcome, not noticing within ourselves. And so I'll conclude here by quoting that verse from the first canto, first chapter, second verse, Dharma Projita Kaitavo. This is also another confirmation that speaks about how this Bhagavad Purana, it completely rejects all religion that is motivated by any material means. And it propounds the highest truth, which means that we're able to distinguish reality from illusion. And when we're able to do that, the threefold miseries of life are actually, they are uprooted. There's no more threefold miseries. And this beautiful Bhagavatam Purana was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva in his maturity. So therefore, if we with great attention recite and hear the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead will establish himself within the core of our heart. And so it's possible to become free from this kleshas, adhyātmika, adhidaivika, adhibautika, even within this life, if we become completely pure in our devotion and in our devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna will be able to help us, at least not be steady with facing those difficulties and not noticing them, because we'll be so absorbed with the holy name, with Krishna. So I'll conclude here. Thank you so much for your attention. Would you like to add anything, or would you like to correct me?
I have a question.
Ask a question. Yes, Vijay Krishna. Well, Prabhu, where were you in the beginning of the class today?
Attending ISKCON Denver Srimad Bhagavatam morning class. That's why I am late for this class.
Okay, we thought so, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. You may ask a question, Prabhu, or make a comment.
Well, in the translation, materialistic activities are being described as miserable because of adhyātmika, adhidaivika, and adhibautika. Based on this, my question is, how would you explain what transcendental activities are?
Mm-hmm.
To materialistic activities, what are the characteristics of transcendental activities? That is my question.
Mm-hmm. So transcendental activities are meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the highest stage of yoga practice. And Bhakti, I mentioned that in my previous classes, there's only one qualification for Bhakti. It's actually your strong desire just to perform it. And there's an interesting pastime of Lord Krishna. Srila Prabhupada gives that example. There was one Srimad Bhagavatam recitation, and the person was reciting Bhagavatam, and he was saying how Krishna, he is a really beautiful little cowherd boy with so many jewels, and he goes and he tends the cows in Vrindavan. And there was one thief in that recitation. He was sitting and listening, and he was thinking, well, wow, Krishna is so beautiful, he has so much jewel. I should come and steal that jewel from him. I should go to Vrindavan and take that jewel away from him. So, and his only qualification was that he was eager to see Krishna. He was saying to himself, I must see, I must find Krishna, I must look for Krishna, I must find him. So when he came to Vrindavan, he saw Krishna, and he came over to him and he said, Krishna, may I please take some of your jewelry? And Krishna said, no, you can't do that. My mother will be angry. So then he became even more eager to get that jewelry from Krishna, the jewels from Krishna, and then eventually he was associating more and more with Krishna, and Krishna offered everything to him. Okay, now fine, you can take whatever I've got. You can take whatever you want. And that thief, because of that association, he was so purified. He didn't want anything anymore, but just love, just Krishna himself. So therefore, that example shows how the transcendental activities are giving us the highest satisfaction, supersidity. They really can, you might be bereft of anything else, but if you've got Krishna, you will be the happiest person. Although materialistic people just it's explained in this side. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a person who is asking a medical attendant to increase his life by 4 years because he has to complete some more things. He didn't have enough time to complete something. So although materialistic happiness and materialistic achievements, they also there, but it's not satisfying because you can never be, even just imagine that situation. You're almost about to die and you're asking a doctor to please prolong your life because you haven't finished something. So you cannot even die peacefully. So therefore, any of these material achievements, it's nothing compared to transcendental happiness. And that transcendental happiness is only possible if we purify our senses and mind and become free from the aparadhas. And like I mentioned about the impediments, we have a proper understanding on what these impediments are, why Krishna is trying to, in some way, sense some difficulties in our life. It might be, first it might be as a learning experience, so you can get that experience and maybe properly behave and help others who will face circumstances like that. But also it's an experience of getting free from particular anarthas that we have. So yeah, that's something about that. Is that okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
I would like to say that when you mentioned that we may not have anything material, but if we have Krishna, then we are fully pleased. I really liked it. And beyond okay, your answer was just brilliant. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Krishna. Anyone else would like to ask a question? So ask a question, a comment. Sakash, you always have a question.
Earlier you mentioned how we get understanding from scripture and guru. I was just wondering, what is the result if we see the guru as an ordinary person?
Yeah, that's also an offense, because our position as a disciple, we might be initiated, but if we're not taking up the lifestyle and if we're not attaching ourselves to the mission of the spiritual master, then what is the use of that initiation? So our position as a disciple is to accept the lifestyle of a guru and try to follow his instructions. Because if we're not following instructions of a spiritual master, it's offensive. It's an offense if we ignore it, and because another offense is to, besides blaspheming the Vaishnavas, is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master, and that offense will definitely be unsatisfied, and our devotional life will be ruined. And besides our diksha, our guru, we have also shiksha instructions. And of course we can choose what kind of shiksha instructions we follow, but ultimately we have to follow something. That's the way of the disciplic succession. It is followed from one person onto another to get the mercy. It's also in the Nectar of Devotion described that we may get the blessings of a senior Vaishnava. I think it's called Kripa Bhakti, and in that way also just progress just nicely in spiritual life. So as brahmacharis, for instance, our duty, our dharma is to try to offer service to everyone, especially within the community and within the brahmachari ashram, so we can get their mercy. And if we get the mercy of Vaishnavas, especially the mercy of a guru, anything that seems impossible will become possible. And even the lame person will cross the mountains, and persons who are not able to speak, they will be speaking. Hare Krishna. So that's that's the proper etiquette we have to follow. And Bhagavad Gita is the same thing. Arjuna was he put his bow down. He was saying, I'm completely I'm weak. I do not know what's my position. I can't act. I can't fight. I can't do anything. And for a kshatriya to put his bow down means defeat. It means dishonor. So in this way, Krishna he tells him that it's time to get serious. Karpanya Arjun's verse. Yeah, he's saying that I accept you as my guru, And then Krishna begins to explain the science of Krishna consciousness, and eventually there's a change of heart. So similarly, we can see Krishna, we can really hear, like Arjuna did, we can hear Krishna, but we can hear a representative of Krishna, a spiritual master. And then there will be a change of heart.
I was just wondering, as I was reading this purport, and it talks about, or actually even in the verse, the threefold miseries. But I was thinking, well, wait, that could also be true of devotees. Adhyātmika, for instance, chronic disease. So you have your chronic disease, but still you're engaging in devotional service. So your spiritual activity, can we say, is mixed with the miserable condition of the adhyātmika klesha. And I think the key to answering this is that verse you quoted, tattenu kompam susamikshimana, which is saying that how a devotee understands both negative and also positive things that happen. The things that happen that may be negative, you get some disease, or adhidaivika misery. I mean, the floods everywhere. They could easily happen. How do you take it? What is your consciousness there? And the atheist says, well, these miseries are proof that there's no God. I've been attending church now for so long, and that famous from the war, right, in Germany, and all the mothers and the wives and the sisters, they all went to the church and prayed like anything as sincerely as possible. Please send my husband back, send my son back. And he didn't come back. Many of them didn't come back.
Yeah.
So they became atheists. But a devotee understands that, I'm suffering this now because of some activity in my past life, but it's been minimized by Krishna. And I also think that, some of you have heard me talk about that Sadhu Sangashtika, those 8 verses by Kapila Dev to his mother. And he deals with this. How does a devotee experience pain or negative things? So he says, Marashya katamrishta shunbanti katayanticha, that the sadhu, who's a devotee, advanced devotee, he's always hearing and chanting my nectarian vibrations about me. Marashya is interesting. For Ashriya means it's shelter, sounds that have taken shelter of Krishna. In other words, that deal with transcendental stuff. Kata mrishta, very sweet and very attractive. So being absorbed in that, then when some pain or a threat comes, he's able to tolerate it because his mind is absorbed so much in Krishna that it is it's not impinging upon his consciousness like an ordinary person who's completely body conscious. And that, the perfect example is Prahlad and Haridas Thakur, But Prabhupada showed that too. He never gave up. He had that horrible stroke, and so many reverses. He was trying to get that land, for the Bombay temple. And then there was a period there where Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Shyamasundar, they consulted and said, well, we got to give it back.
Yeah.
Luckily, they didn't get any money. You want to try to keep the money and get the land back. But the point is that it's how these 3 miseries are going to be there as long as you have a body.
Yeah.
There'll be impingements on you from the devas, from your own body, others, But what your reaction is, what your consciousness is, makes all the difference. And you can see it in a positive light. Oh, Krishna's so kind; he's just minimizing or Krishna's so kind; he's giving me something good now. Now I can better serve him.
Yeah.
Rather than for a materialist, now I can really enjoy, right? Like that. So the whole thing is the consciousness. The threefold miseries are going to happen, but how you take them, how you react to them, makes all the difference.
We have some remnants of the enjoyment spirit, and Krishna just gives us punishment so we can notice, and that could also go away in the process of devotional service. But you mentioned the World War II, and I just thought of this. Rukmini Devi Dasi, she joined because in her family, because she's a Jewish family, raised in a Jewish family, and she was also saying that no one in my family believed in God. They were so affected by this consequence of the war, and I was the only one interested. So, and she was 16 years old when she joined. And one time, Srila Prabhupada, she was with Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees, and Srila Prabhupada was saying that everyone should. I want you to go to a different country, and I want you to open a temple. And then she said. And even us, Mataji, you want us to go and preach and open a temple? And Srila Prabhupada said yes, because when you preach the message of Krishna consciousness, it doesn't matter, we're not, when we preach, we're not the body when we preach, when we talk about Krishna. And so when devotees are feeling blissful, because real Vaishnava is always happy, is always blissful. Yeah. So in this way, so what if there's something that happens to me that causes me some reaction, some difficulty, some suffering? I have my shelter in the holy name and devotees and Bhagavatam. So, our consciousness, if it's proper, then we can still be happy and blissful.
Actually, really meant to see the verses as an opportunity to show even more dedication to Krishna. In other words, despite all the difficulties, still I got to fight through and perform my service. And that's where you make real advancement.
Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.